Mom's sick, so I came instead. The little girl's voice was barely louder than a whisper, yet it sliced through the CEO's office like a bell in a silent cathedral. Ethan Vance, one of the youngest millionaires in the city, a man feared in boardrooms and admired in magazines, looked up from his files, convinced for a moment that he'd imagined it. But there she stood, a tiny figure in a faded yellow dress, clutching a crumpled envelope with both hands as if it were a treasure map. Security hadn't stopped her. His assistant hadn't intercepted her. Somehow, she had walked straight into the most powerful room in the entire building, as if destiny had personally escorted her up all 4 to 7 floors. "And you are?" Ethan asked, setting his pen down slowly. "My name is Lily," she replied, her big brown eyes filled with sincerity. "Mommy was supposed to come today for the meeting. But she got too sick. So I came to give you this." She held out the envelope with trembling fingers. Ethan hesitated. Children never came into his office. Problems, deals, lawsuits, partnerships, those came in daily. But not children. Never children. He took the envelope gently. Inside was a letter written in careful, shaky handwriting. The name at the bottom froze him. Emma Collins. A name he hadn't spoken in years. A name that once made his heart beat too fast. A name he had tried to forget. He looked up sharply. "Your mother is Emma Collins." Lily nodded. "She said you used to know each other. And she said you're the only person who can help." A strange pressure formed in Ethan's chest. He leaned back, rubbing the bridge of his nose as memories he had long buried clawed their way back. Late-night conversations, laughter that warmed rooms, dreams whispered under street lamps, a goodbye that came too suddenly. "What happened to your mother?" he asked softly. "She works too much," Lily said. 3 jobs. She never sleeps. Last night she fainted again. The doctor said, he said she needs treatment. But we don't have money." Her voice cracked. "So she wrote you the letter?" Ethan stared at the child. Her small hands, the determination in her expression, the spark of her mother in her eyes. Emma had been strong, proud, stubborn. She would never ask for help unless she had hit the very bottom. "Lily," he said, rising slowly, "why didn't your mother come herself?" "Because she didn't want to bother you." Tears gathered in Lily's eyes, but she blinked them back bravely. "But I'm not scared to bother anyone if it means saving her." Ethan felt something shift inside him, something rusty, unused, unexpectedly gentle. He stepped around his desk and crouched to Lily's height. "You did the right thing by coming here." Her lip trembled. "Will you help her?" He didn't answer immediately. Not because he didn't know, he did. The moment he saw Emma's name, he already knew. But the weight of the past pressed against him, pushing old wounds to the surface. "Where is she now?" he finally asked. "At home." "She told me to go to school after giving you the letter," Lily whispered. "But I came here instead." "I didn't know what else to do." Ethan straightened and grabbed his coat. "Come on." "Where?" Lily blinked. "To see your mother." The elevator ride was silent except for the soft hum of machinery. Lily clutched his sleeve, not out of fear but trust, a trust he hadn't earned but wasn't willing to disappoint. When they reached the parking lot, his driver rushed forward, but Ethan waved him off. He opened the car door himself and helped Lily inside. The city blurred past the windows as they drove toward the neighborhood he hadn't visited in over a decade. Lily guided him through narrow streets until she pointed at a small, aging building. "That's our home." Ethan stepped out, his chest tight. The stairwell smelled of detergent and damp walls. He followed Lily to a door that looked like it had been repaired too many times. She knocked softly. "Mommy?" "I'm back." There was a faint shuffling from inside before the door cracked open. Emma Collins stood in the doorway. Paler than he remembered. Fragile where she had once been fiery. Exhaustion carved into her eyes. But the moment she saw Ethan, she froze as if time itself had jolted. "Ethan," she breathed. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He simply looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the woman he once loved standing on the edge of breaking. Emma tried to straighten herself. "Lily, sweetheart, I told you not to." But Lily darted forward and hugged her waist. "Mommy, he came. He came to help." Emma closed her eyes briefly, pain flickering across her features. "Lily, you shouldn't have." Ethan stepped forward. "Emma, we need to talk." She hesitated, gripping the door frame for support. "There's nothing to talk about. I never wanted." You need help, Ethan said quietly. And I'm here. Her breath caught. Lily looked between them, hope shining through her small face. Ethan took a slow breath, the weight of the past and present merging into something he could no longer run from. Emma, he said, voice low, steady, unyielding. I'm not leaving until you let me help, Ethan said, his voice steady enough to make Emma's resolve waver. She exhaled slowly, her fingers tightening around the doorframe. You don't owe me anything, Ethan. That chapter of our lives is over. I don't want you feeling responsible for us. It's not about responsibility, he replied. It's about the fact that you're standing here, barely able to hold yourself up, and you think I can just walk away. Emma looked down, as if hiding from the truth. Lily clung to her mother's hand, her small face tilted up with concern. Mummy, she whispered, please don't argue. Emma knelt and cupped Lily's cheeks. I'm not arguing, sweetheart. I just don't want him to think we're. Stop, Ethan interrupted gently. I don't think you're anything except exhausted, overwhelmed, and too proud to admit you're drowning. Emma's eyes flashed, not with anger but with the sting of being understood too deeply. She opened her mouth as if to protest, but her breath caught. She swayed slightly, and Ethan automatically reached out, steadying her by the arm. Sit down, he insisted. Please. Maybe it was his tone. Maybe it was her weakened state. Maybe it was simply that she had no strength left to fight. But Emma allowed him to guide her inside. The apartment was small but tidy. A couch patched with worn fabric, a tiny kitchen with two mismatched chairs, school drawings on the fridge held up by tired magnets. It was the home of people trying desperately to survive without asking for anything more. Emma sank onto the couch, pressing a hand to her temple. Lily hurried to bring her a glass of water from the kitchen. Ethan watched the girl with a heaviness in his chest. Too young to be this responsible. Too aware of things children shouldn't have to think about. Thank you, sweetheart, Emma whispered when Lily handed her the glass. Her voice was thin, strained. Ethan crouched in front of her, just as he'd done with Lily earlier. Emma, he said quietly, why didn't you tell me things had gotten this bad? She let out a hollow laugh. Because after the way things ended, I thought contacting you would feel like crawling back. I wasn't going to put you in that position. You should have, he said. Why? Her eyes lifted to his, filled with hurt. So you could pity me? So I could be there for you, he said firmly. You were never someone I could, just forget. Silence hovered between them, thick with years of unspoken words. Then Lily climbed onto the couch beside her mother, curling into her side, watching Ethan with wide, hopeful eyes. It was that look that cracked something inside him. He had faced ruthless competitors, cutthroat negotiations, and the constant scrutiny of the world, but none of it had ever felt as heavy as the silent plea from a little girl who just wanted her mother to be okay. Emma, he said again, gentler this time, let me take you to the hospital. I just need rest, she murmured, turning her head away. The doctors already said I'm exhausted and malnourished. They want more tests, but I can't afford them. And you think that's acceptable? Ethan asked, his voice tightening. You think this little girl should watch you break down piece by piece because you're afraid of accepting help? Emma flinched, tears gathering at the corner of her eyes. Lily's voice came soft, trembling. Mummy, I'm scared. Emma pulled her daughter into her arms, holding her as if she were afraid Lily might disappear if she loosened her grip. That single moment, raw, fragile, soaked in love, was enough for Ethan to make up his mind entirely. I'm taking care of everything, he said, rising to his feet. Medical expenses, treatment, whatever you need. We can't pay you back, Emma whispered, her voice small, ashamed. I'm not asking you to, he replied. This isn't a loan, Emma. It's help. Something you should have had long before now. Emma stared at him, searching for a reason to refuse, searching for the stubborn pride that had always pushed her forward even when her world collapsed. But she found none. Not when Lily's hand slipped into hers with a gentle squeeze. Not when her own body felt moments from collapsing again. Finally, she nodded, just once, but it carried the weight of surrender and trust. Ethan released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He took out his phone and made a call, his voice calm and controlled as he arranged immediate transport, a private doctor, and medical support that most people only saw in movies. When he ended the call, he noticed Lily staring at him with awe. Are we really going to the hospital, sir? Not just a hospital, Ethan said, softening. The best care in the city. Your mom deserves that. Lily threw her arms around him, surprising him. He froze for a moment. Physical affection wasn't something he encountered often. But then he gently rested a hand on her back, touched by the fiercely grateful hug of a child who had been carrying too much alone. Within 20 minutes, medical professionals arrived, moving with careful efficiency. Emma was examined right in her living room, her vitals checked, her condition assessed with grave professionalism. Ethan stayed close, watching every detail, answering questions when Emma was too tired to respond. When they prepared to move her, Emma looked at Ethan again. Her voice was faint but sincere. Thank you. I don't know why you're doing all this after so long. He met her gaze, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. Because you shouldn't have had to fight this alone. He didn't add what echoed silently in his mind, that he never stopped caring. That guilt had lived in him for years. That seeing her like this felt like a punishment he deserved. The stretcher was ready. Lily held her mother's hand as they began to lift her. Mummy, she whispered, you're going to be okay now. Emma smiled weakly, brushing her thumb across Lily's cheek. Because of you, my brave girl. Ethan followed them down the hallway, the weight of the moment thickening with every step. When they reached the ambulance, Emma looked at him again, her lips parting as if she wanted to say something more, something honest, something from the old days. But the words never came. Ethan gently helped Lily climb in beside her mother, then stepped back, watching the doors close. He stood there as the ambulance pulled away, the sirens silent but the urgency unmistakable. And deep inside him, a storm he had locked away for years finally began to stir, ready to rewrite everything he thought he'd buried forever. Ethan didn't return to his office that day. Instead, he followed the ambulance in his car, gripping the steering wheel with a tension he hadn't felt in years. The skyline blurred past his window, but his mind was somewhere entirely else, racing back through memories of a girl with laughing eyes and dreams bigger than the world, a girl he once thought he'd spend forever with. A girl he let slip away. When he reached the hospital, he parked hastily and walked in just as the medical team wheeled Emma through double doors toward the evaluation wing. Lily trotted beside the stretcher, her small fingers clutching her mother's weak hand. Emma kept her eyes half open, but every few seconds she glanced toward Ethan as if she still couldn't believe he was really there. The doctor stopped him at the threshold. Sir, we'll take her from here. You can wait in the family room. Ethan nodded, but his jaw tightened. Take care of her. Do whatever needs to be done. The doctor gave a reassuring glance before the doors closed behind them. Lily stood beside Ethan, her shoulders trembling, her eyes wide. She looked lost in the wide, harshly lit corridor, too small and too fragile for such a place. Without thinking, Ethan knelt down and rested a gentle hand on her arm. She's safe now, he said softly. They're going to help her. Lily swallowed hard. Do people die from being tired? The question broke him in ways he didn't expect. No, he whispered. Not when they have people who care enough to fight for them. Lily looked up at him, searching his expression with a depth far beyond her years. Will you stay? The ease with which she asked, with trust, with expectation, pulled something tight in his chest. She wasn't asking a CEO. She wasn't asking a millionaire. She was asking the only person who seemed like he could hold her world together right now. Yes, he said. I'll stay. They sat in the family waiting room together. Lily leaned against his arm in silent exhaustion, and Ethan, he just watched the clock, each passing minute testing his patience. He wasn't used to waiting. But for this, for Emma, he would wait as long as it took. After a while, Lily's stomach growled. She flushed and tried to hide it, but Ethan pretended not to notice the embarrassment. When was the last time you ate? He asked. Yesterday, she admitted softly. He blinked. Yesterday? She nodded. Mommy spent all the money on her medicine. She said we'd buy food today. But she got sick. Ethan felt heat rise in his chest, not anger at Emma, never her, but anger at the circumstances that had pushed her here. He stood up. Come on. We're getting you something to eat. Lily looked hesitant. But what if Mommy wakes up? What if she needs me? I told the nurses to call me the moment there's any update, Ethan said. I promise we won't miss anything. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. She slipped her hand into his without being asked, and Ethan tightened his grip just gently enough not to overwhelm her. He took her to the hospital cafeteria, choosing warm, fresh food and juice, placing them carefully in front of her. She stared at the plates in disbelief, as if she hadn't seen so much food in a long time. "Eat slowly," he reminded her gently. "You're safe." Lily nodded and began eating with small bites at first, then larger ones when she realized no one was going to take the food away. Ethan watched her quietly, his mind a cyclone of thoughts. This was his fault. Not directly, perhaps, but in a way that mattered. He had built empires, made fortunes, shaped markets, but he had ignored a piece of his past that might have needed him. He had walked away too easily. Had he stayed, had he cared more, perhaps Emma wouldn't have been alone to the point of collapsing. When Lily finished, he took her back to the waiting room. She rested her head against his arm again, half asleep but fighting it. He looked down at her, brushing a stray hair away from her forehead with surprising gentleness. Then his phone vibrated. The doctor. He stood, careful not to jostle Lily. "Stay here, sweetheart. I'll be back in a moment." But Lily grabbed his sleeve. "Don't leave." He knelt. "I'm not leaving. I'm just going to talk to the doctor at the door. You'll still see me." She hesitated, then slowly let go. Ethan stepped toward the doctor, bracing himself. "She's stabilizing," the doctor said. "But her condition didn't happen overnight. Severe exhaustion, stress-related complications, nutritional deficiencies, she's been pushing herself far too long. She'll need treatment, rest, and continuous monitoring." "And money," Ethan said quietly, almost bitterly. The doctor didn't deny it. "We'll start treatment immediately," the doctor continued. "But I'll be honest, if she hadn't been brought in today, things might have taken a much worse turn." A chill crawled down Ethan's spine. He nodded, jaw tight. "Do everything necessary. I'll handle the costs." The doctor gave a grateful nod and walked away. Ethan returned to Lily, whose eyes anxiously scanned his face. "Is she okay?" she whispered. "She's stable," he said. "She's safe. They are taking care of her." Lily sagged in relief and suddenly burst into tears. Not loud sobs, quiet, heartbreaking tears of a child who had tried so hard to be brave for too long. Ethan didn't think. He simply wrapped his arms around her, letting her cry into his chest. "You did so well," he whispered. "You saved her, Lily." "I was so scared," she sobbed. "I didn't know what to do." "You did the perfect thing," he murmured. "You came to me." Lily's small fingers twisted into his coat. Will you stay with us? Not just today, but until Mommy gets better." Ethan felt the question hit him like a strike straight to the heart. He had walked into this morning as a CEO, untouched by the world. Yet here he was, holding a fragile little life in his arms, realizing he was already more involved than he ever expected to be. He stroked her back slowly. "Yes, Lily. I'll stay." She nodded into his chest, believing him instantly. And for the first time in years, Ethan realized he had just made a promise he intended to keep. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. He wasn't letting Emma, or Lily, face it alone anymore. Ethan held Lily until her sobs faded into soft hiccups, her small frame finally loosening with the exhaustion she had been carrying alone. When she pulled back, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand, he saw something in her eyes that twisted at him. Trust. Complete, unquestioning trust. "Can I see Mommy now?" she asked quietly. "Not yet," he replied gently. "The doctors are still working with her. They'll let us know when she wakes up." Lily nodded, though her disappointment was clear. She curled up on the waiting room chair, clutching the soft blanket a nurse had given her. For a moment, Ethan simply watched her, this tiny warrior of a child who had marched into a CEO's office and changed everything with a single sentence. He pulled out his phone and drafted a message to his assistant, Clara. "Clear my schedule for the next 2 days. I need to stay at the hospital." Before he could hit send, he hesitated. 2 days wouldn't be enough. Not for Emma. Not for Lily. Not for the mess of emotions churning in him that he hadn't felt since he was much younger, much more reckless, much more alive. He deleted the message and typed again. "Clear my schedule until further notice. Handle all meetings." He hit send before he could change his mind. The hours slipped by slowly, the hospital lights dimming as night settled outside. Lily eventually drifted into a deep sleep, her head falling against Ethan's arm. He didn't move her. He didn't even shift. He just watched her breathe, each rise and fall of her little chest reminding him of everything he'd failed to see for too long. A nurse approached him quietly. "Mr. Vance?" "She's awake." Ethan exhaled, relief washing through him so suddenly he had to close his eyes for a moment. He gently lifted Lily and carried her, careful not to wake her as he followed the nurse down the hall. They stepped into a private room, his instructions, of course, and there she was. Emma. Awake. Sitting slightly upright, looking smaller than he remembered, but alive. Her eyes flickered toward him the moment he entered. For a second, neither of them spoke. Lily stirred in his arms, blinking sleepily. When her gaze found her mother, she wriggled instantly. Ethan lowered her down, and Lily rushed to the bedside. "Mommy," she whispered fiercely, hugging Emma's waist as if afraid she might break. Emma ran her fingers through Lily's hair, tears brimming. "I'm okay, baby. I'm right here." Lily clung to her for a long moment, then finally let go, laying her head on her mother's lap. Emma kissed her forehead, then looked up, really looked at Ethan. "You didn't have to do all this," she said softly. He stepped forward, folding his arms lightly, not as a shield but as if holding himself steady. "I did." "No, Ethan," she insisted. "I know what this looks like. Like I'm dragging you into my problems. Into a life I never wanted you to see." "Emma," he said, "you almost collapsed in front of your daughter. If Lily hadn't come to me, what then?" She swallowed, eyes dropping to her hands. "I was trying. I thought I could manage. I didn't want to be a burden." "You're not a burden," Ethan said firmly. Her throat bobbed, but she didn't interrupt. "You needed help," he continued. "And I should have been there long before today." "Don't," Emma whispered. "Please don't blame yourself for things that happened years ago. We chose different paths. Life happened. People grow apart." "But I didn't forget you," he said quietly. Her eyes lifted. He saw the shock in them, the disbelief, the old hurt tangled up with memories she probably forced herself to bury. "I thought you did," she said softly. Ethan shook his head. "I tried. It didn't work." For a moment, the room felt too small, too intimate. Even Lily sensed the shift, looking between them tiredly before settling back against Emma. Emma gently stroked her daughter's hair, her eyes softening. "She's all I have," she murmured. "Everything I do, every job, every tired night, it's all for her." "I know," Ethan said. "I can see that." "She's the reason I never reached out," Emma continued, her voice a fragile whisper. "I didn't want her to see me, needing someone else to save us." Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're not weak for needing help. You're human. You gave everything to protect your daughter, even if it meant breaking yourself. That's strength, Emma." Her eyes glistened. "Then why does it feel like failure?" "Because you've been doing it alone," he said. "And you don't have to anymore." The words lingered between them, warm and dangerous. Emma looked at Lily, then at Ethan again. "She likes you," she admitted softly. "More than she's ever liked anyone this fast." "I like her too," Ethan said, meaning it more than he expected. Emma hesitated. "She asked me once if I ever loved anyone before her father. I told her no, because I didn't want to confuse her." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "And was that the truth?" Emma's breath caught, her gaze flickering away. "It was easier." Ethan took a slow breath. "Emma, what happened between us?" "Was a lifetime ago," she finished quickly, almost defensively. "Maybe," he agreed softly, "but some things don't disappear just because time passes." Emma looked at him sharply, as if the words had unraveled something she had carefully knotted inside her. Before she could respond, Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mummy," she whispered sleepily, "can he stay here tonight? Please." Emma's gaze softened. "Sweetheart, he's very busy." "I'm not," Ethan said, interrupting gently. Emma's eyes widened slightly. "Ethan." "I told my team I'm unavailable," he said. "This is where I need to be." Lily smiled, already drifting off again, comforted simply by the promise. Emma stared at Ethan, her expression a mix of gratitude, confusion, and fear. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. He met her eyes, his voice low and steady. "Because I should have been in your life a long time ago. Because I don't want to walk away again. And because I care." Her breath hitched, and she looked away quickly, as if afraid of what her own eyes might give away. The monitors beeped softly. Lily breathed evenly. The room fell into a gentle, fragile quiet. And Ethan took a seat beside Emma's bed, his presence grounding, warm, and quietly protective. Not realizing yet that everything, her life, Lily's world, and his own guarded heart, was already entwining in ways none of them could undo. Ethan stayed by Emma's bedside long after Lily fell asleep curled against her mother's side, long after the hallway lights dimmed, long after the nurse's quiet footsteps faded into the hum of machines. He didn't rush, didn't glance at his phone, didn't pretend he had somewhere more important to be. Because for the first time in years, he wasn't running a company. He was standing still, in the exact place he needed to be. Emma watched him quietly, her lashes low, her breath still a little weak but steadier than before. The gentle glow of the room reflected off the edges of her eyes, softening her features, revealing a vulnerability she'd hidden from the world for far too long. "You should rest," she whispered finally. "So should you," he murmured. "I'm already resting," she countered, glancing down at Lily's peaceful face. "And I'm already staying," he replied. A subtle, indescribable warmth filled the silence between them, one made of old memories, unspoken regrets, and the bright, trembling possibility of something neither dared name yet. Hours passed until the first pale light of dawn slipped into the room. Emma shifted slightly, wincing at the soreness in her muscles. Ethan leaned forward instantly, concern tightening his features. "Are you okay?" "I will be," she said softly. "Thanks to you." His jaw clenched. "I wish you'd let me help sooner." Emma shook her head. "I didn't want your pity." "It isn't pity," he said, almost sharply. "It's care. It's responsibility. It's something I should have shown years ago." Emma studied him for a long moment, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you regret leaving?" He didn't look away, he didn't blink. "Every day." The honesty hit her like a wave. Her fingers trembled slightly where they rested on the bedsheet. "I was angry then," she admitted. "Angry and hurt. I wanted you to fight for me, but you left quietly. And I've regretted it since the moment the door closed," he said. "But seeing you now, like this, Emma, I won't make the same mistake twice." Her lips parted, but before she could speak, Lily stirred, stretching her arms above her head, blinking sleepily at both of them. "Morning, Mummy, morning, sir," she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, sweetheart," Emma whispered, brushing her daughter's hair back. Ethan smiled. "Just Ethan is fine." Lily yawned widely, then crawled into his lap as if she had always belonged there. He froze for a second, surprised, then gently wrapped an arm around her tiny shoulders. She leaned into him with full trust, full comfort, something he hadn't realized he desperately needed. "Mummy," Lily said suddenly, "can Ethan come live with us?" Emma's eyes widened. Ethan's breath caught. Lily continued innocently, "I like him. And you smile more when he's here." Emma opened her mouth to respond, but Ethan spoke first, softly, carefully, as if testing ground he'd once walked and lost. "We'll take things one step at a time, sweetheart," he said. "Let's get your mom healthy first." "But you're not leaving, right?" Lily asked, lifting her head to stare directly into his eyes. Ethan lifted her gently and set her on her feet. Then he lowered to her height, looking her straight in the eyes with all the sincerity he possessed. "I'm not leaving," he said. Lily grinned, hugging him tightly before scampering back onto the bed. Emma watched the scene, her heart tightening in her chest. She wasn't used to this support, warmth, someone stepping in without being asked. It felt dangerous. It felt terrifying. It felt like hope. Later that morning, when the doctor came in with test results and updates, Ethan stood beside Emma, listening as if every word mattered to him personally. Lily clung to his hand the whole time. The doctor explained the treatment plan, the rest Emma needed, the stress she had to avoid. "We'll ensure she gets everything," Ethan said firmly, leaving no room for argument. Emma bit her lip, overwhelmed. "I don't know how to repay you." "You already did," he said quietly. She blinked. "What do you mean?" He inhaled slowly. "You gave me something I never thought I'd have again." Emma waited. "Family," he whispered. Her breath caught. Something warm stung behind her eyes. Over the next few days, Ethan arranged everything. He hired private nurses, moved Emma and Lily into a comfortable recovery suite, handled all expenses without hesitation. He visited daily, sometimes with food, sometimes with flowers, sometimes with nothing but his presence, which seemed to be what Emma needed most. Lily took to him instantly. She told him stories, asked questions, held his hand at every hallway walk. And every time, Ethan felt something inside him soften, expand, settle into a rhythm he never knew he'd been missing. One afternoon, after a week of recovery, the doctor approved Emma for discharge. As they walked out of the hospital, Lily skipping between them, Emma paused at the doors. "Ethan," she said, her voice threading with nerves, "you've done so much, more than anyone ever has. But once we get home, once things settle, you don't owe us anything. You don't have to stay." He turned to her slowly, the sunlight catching in his eyes. "I'm not staying because I owe you," he said softly. "I'm staying because I want to." Emma swallowed. "But why?" He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face with a gentleness that sent heat rushing to her cheeks. "Because losing you once was the biggest mistake of my life," he said. "And I'm not giving fate a second chance." Her lips parted, breath trembling. "Ethan." "No," he murmured, his voice deep and certain. "This time, I'm choosing you. Both of you. If you'll let me." Lily slipped her hand into his again, sealing the moment with a child's pure certainty. Emma looked between them, at Lily's bright smile, at Ethan's steady eyes, and something inside her finally loosened. The walls she had built for years cracked under the weight of truth. She exhaled shakily. "Then, stay." Ethan's expression softened, his eyes warming in a way that felt like sunrise. "I'm not going anywhere," he whispered. He took Emma's hand gently, Lily's hand already in his other, and together they stepped forward, 3 lives intertwined not by accident, not by pity, but by choice. A new beginning forged in the quiet strength of love, healing, and the courage to hope again. And as they walked into the morning light, it was clear to anyone watching. The CEO hadn't just helped a struggling mother and child. He had found his family.